My fiancée announced, "You're too childish for marriage," so I canceled the wedding. Her older sister texted, "Can we talk?" And now we're engaged. Looking back, I should have trusted my gut from the beginning, but when you're caught up in someone's vision of who you could be, it's easy to lose sight of who you actually are. I met Lauren at a wine festival 3 years ago when I was 28, working as a quality control manager at a pharmaceutical manufacturing plant in Minneapolis. She was there with real estate colleagues, looking polished in a cream dress, holding her wine glass like a magazine pose. I made some joke about the Merlot tasting like gym socks, and she laughed this bright sound that made me think she wasn't as serious as she looked. We talked for hours, and she seemed genuinely interested when I rambled about quality assurance protocols, things most people found boring. When I mentioned my 3-legged rescue beagle Cosmo, she smiled and said that was sweet, showing I had a good heart. That should have been my first clue, the way she said, "sweet," with a tiny edge I was too smitten to notice. The first few months felt easy. She'd come to my lakeside cottage on weekends, laugh at Cosmo chasing his tail, seemed charmed by my vintage video game collection and comic books in protective sleeves. "It's nice that you have hobbies," she'd said once. I didn't hear the unspoken, but, at the end, the shift started around 6 months in, subtle comments about my interests being cute, in a tone suggesting otherwise. "You're still reading those?" When I brought home comics. "Don't you think it's time to find more adult ways to spend your Thursday nights?" When I'd head to basketball with college friends. She called it tough love, making me grow up. When I'd come home from recreational hockey, she'd wrinkle her nose at my gear, say grown men didn't play children's games. "You're almost 30. Don't you want to be taken seriously?" I started leaving my hockey stick in the car, stopped mentioning rare baseball cards I'd found, downplayed excitement about the new comic store downtown. Easier than arguing, easier than seeing her disappointed look. A year in, Lauren got promoted to senior luxury real estate agent and everything accelerated. She talked constantly about image, perception, projecting success and maturity. When you're selling million-dollar homes to executives, you have to embody that lifestyle yourself. I nodded along, loving her, wanting to support her career, not understanding how her job connected to my weekend hobbies. That's when she started systematically dismantling everything that made me who I was. She convinced me to skip Thursday basketball for networking happy hours, even though I had zero need to schmooze real estate clients. My college friends started texting less, asking if I was okay. I made excuses about being busy, growing up, priorities changing. When Lauren suggested getting rid of Cosmo because a 3-legged rescue wasn't sophisticated enough, I pushed back. "He's my dog. I'm not getting rid of him." She cried, said I was selfish, clinging to childish things that held us back. "Don't you want a future together? Don't you want to be someone people respect?" She wore me down over weeks with photos of elegant purebreds, explaining how the right pet made the right impression. I held firm on Cosmo but felt guilty, like maybe she was right about needing to grow up. After 2 years, she suggested I propose. It felt like checking off a list item, but I bought the princess cut ring she'd pointed out repeatedly. I proposed at a fancy restaurant she'd selected, got down on one knee, and she said yes with this triumphant smile that should have told me everything. She immediately started planning an extravagant Bahamas destination wedding, showing me venues and catering that cost more than I made in 3 months. "It's going to be perfect, something people will talk about for years." I asked about something smaller, maybe at the lake, but she looked at me like I'd suggested McDonald's. "Jason, this is once in a lifetime. Don't you want it to be special?" I signed credit card authorizations for deposits I couldn't afford, told myself it was investment in our future. What I didn't know until later was she'd been making deposits without my knowledge, using my financial info from joint vacation planning, committing us to expenses I'd never agreed to. I handled it, she'd say when bills arrived for things I'd never heard of. "You're too indecisive anyway." I worked 50-hour weeks trying to cover mounting costs while Lauren was annoyed I wasn't more excited about planning, that I seemed checked out, discussing napkin colors. Most men would be grateful their fiancé is handling everything. It all mattered, but somewhere along the way, I'd stopped recognizing whose wedding we were planning. 8 months before the wedding, Lauren decided my lakeside cottage needed to reflect our elevated status. I'd bought the place 5 years earlier, cozy with knotty pine walls and water views, comfortable and lived in. Lauren hated it. "We can't bring clients here," she announced one Saturday. "It screams bachelor pad, not successful couple." Over 2 months, she systematically erased every trace of my personality. My comfortable furniture vanished while I was at work, replaced by sterile white couches requiring professional cleaning. When I came home to find my vintage video game consoles gone, donated to charity without permission, I felt actual grief. "Lauren, those were collectibles worth serious money." "They were clutter, Jason. You never played them anymore." "Because you said they were childish." She sighed like I was being difficult. "You're 28, holding on to high school things like they define you. They just make you look like you never grew up." My baseball card collection disappeared next, thousands of dollars in vintage cards replaced by abstract art. I sold them on eBay. Money went to the wedding fund. "You should thank me for being practical." "Those weren't yours to sell. Some were from my grandfather." "Your grandfather's been dead 6 years. He'd want you investing in your future, not living in the past." That night I slept on the uncomfortable designer couch. Then came etiquette classes, 6 Wednesday evenings learning which fork to use at galas I'd never attend. "Investment in our social mobility," Lauren said about the $500 fee. "I can't have you embarrassing me at client dinners." Worse were the opera performances. Lauren dragged me to 4-hour productions in languages I didn't understand. I'd sit in my rented tuxedo fighting sleep while she displayed studied cultural appreciation that looked rehearsed. "Wasn't that magnificent?" She'd gush. I'd nod, avoiding another lecture about expanding horizons. What cut deepest was how she talked about my family. My mom worked as a school cafeteria manager for 23 years. My dad ran a small landscaping business. They'd raised me to value hard work and kindness over money and status. Lauren found them embarrassingly blue-collar. She said it casually at dinner with her parents, her father a corporate VP. "Jason's people are very working class. Sweet, but not really our caliber." Her mom made a sympathetic face like my family had terminal illness. After that, Lauren made excuses why my parents couldn't come to wedding planning meetings, why we should have rehearsal dinner at a restaurant they couldn't afford instead of the barbecue my dad offered to host. "They won't understand the vision." "Do you really want your mother talking about school lunches in front of my colleagues?" The breaking point should have been the maturity timeline. Lauren presented it Tuesday evening, a literal spreadsheet printed on cardstock, color-coded and laminated. A detailed schedule of everything I needed to quit to become husband material. Hockey had to go by March. Baseball card collecting by April. Weekend volunteering at the animal shelter by May because that's what teenagers do for college applications, not grown men with their free time. "These activities hold you back from full potential," she explained, sliding the timeline across like a performance review. "Once married, people judge me based on how you spend time. Your choices reflect on both of us." I stared at my identity reduced to termination schedule items. What if I don't want to quit these things? What if they make me happy? Then decide what matters more, your childish hobbies or our marriage. Even then, I convinced myself she was just wedding stressed, that things would improve after marriage. I quit hockey the next week, told guys I'd played with for 6 years I was too busy. Made excuses to the shelter about missing Saturday shifts. Packed remaining collectibles at my parents' house where Lauren wouldn't find them. The control escalated. Lauren started screening my phone calls, grabbing my phone to decide whether callers were worth my time. She'd delete texts from friends she thought were bad influences, guys who still played video games or attended conventions, saying she was protecting our future from people who'd drag you backward. My social media became her domain. She'd delete anything childish, hockey photos, movie jokes, anything not fitting her sophisticated professional image. I found out she'd been documenting my failures in a password-protected spreadsheet. I only discovered it when she left her laptop open and I came home early. The file was called Jason Improvement Tracker, with entries going back 18 months, detailed notes from laughed too loud at inappropriate joke at dinner party, to Spent 40 minutes talking about quality control procedures. Embarrassing. Reading that spreadsheet felt like being gutted. She saw me not as a partner but as a project, something defective needing constant correction. Every private moment, every vulnerability I'd shown, catalogued as evidence of inadequacy. And still, somehow, I was planning to marry her in 4 months. The explosion happened at Lauren's agency rooftop networking event in downtown Minneapolis, 3 months before our wedding. She'd insisted I take the afternoon off, laying out a charcoal suit I'd never worn because it felt too formal. This is important for my career. These are influential people. I need you to make the right impression for once. The event was everything I'd learned to dread: pretentious conversations about market trends, people name-dropping clients and vacation destinations. I stood nursing an overpriced craft cocktail while a broker explained his historic property flipping strategy, which mostly involved destroying everything historic. That's when I met Gerald Hoffman, a pharmaceutical executive whose company used quality control software similar to ours. For the first time all evening, I was actually interested. We spent 20 minutes discussing contamination prevention protocols, statistical process control, sterility challenges. I explained a new validation method we'd pioneered that reduced our error rate by 40%. Gerald was equally engaged, asking smart questions, taking notes about techniques his team might implement. It felt incredible talking about my work with someone who understood it, valued what I did. I didn't notice Lauren approaching until she grabbed my elbow, fingernails digging through my jacket. "Jason, could I borrow you?" Her smile was frozen, voice tight. She dragged me to a corner near the elevators, and the second we were out of earshot, her expression transformed to furious. "What the hell are you doing?" I was talking to Gerald Hoffman about quality control. He was really interested in, "You were boring him to death. Do you have any idea how that made me look?" I stared, confused. He asked me questions. We were having a professional conversation. "Nobody cares about your boring job. Gerald Hoffman is a senior executive, someone who could be a client, and you trapped him in mind-numbing discussion about spreadsheets like you're in college." Her voice was getting louder. "You're supposed to be networking, helping my career, not embarrassing me." The car ride home was worse. Lauren drove in silence for 10 minutes, hands gripping the wheel so tight her knuckles went white. When she spoke, it was with cold fury more terrifying than yelling. "Do you enjoy humiliating me?" "Lauren, I was just having a conversation." Gerald seemed genuinely interested. He was being polite. That's what professionals do. She swerved into our driveway, slammed into park. "Your boring, juvenile enthusiasm makes me look unprofessional by association. When you act like an excited puppy talking about quality assurance, people think you're socially incompetent, and they wonder what's wrong with me." I felt slapped. Juvenile enthusiasm for discussing my career, the work paying for her overpriced wedding. I thought you liked that I was knowledgeable. There's a difference between knowledgeable and insufferable. You were insufferable tonight. Just like when you talk about your stupid comics or pathetic rescue dog or childish things you refuse to grow out of. She stared through the windshield. "I've tried to help you become someone respectable, someone I could be proud to introduce as my husband, but you keep reverting to this immature kid who gets excited about things that don't matter." That's when she said it. "You're too childish for marriage, Jason. You act like a kid playing house instead of a real man building a future." The silence felt suffocating. I could hear my heartbeat, a distant sprinkler, the cooling engine ticking. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying make a choice right now. Completely abandon your hobbies, cut ties with your loser friends, switch to prestigious medical device sales where you'd make connections that matter instead of hiding in a plant, and let me manage every aspect of your life. Or the wedding is off." She turned to look at me, face hard. "I'm not marrying someone who'll hold me back, make me look bad, who values comic books and rescue dogs over our future. I need a real partner who understands image and connections build success. Decide if you can be that person or stay stuck in your pathetic Peter Pan existence." I thought about the ring, the deposits, invitations already mailed. The spreadsheet documenting my failures, my collection sold without permission, friends I'd abandoned, parents she found embarrassing, my dog she wanted replaced, every piece of myself I'd sacrificed trying to become whatever she needed. Something crystallized with perfect clarity. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to spend my life being corrected and managed, having enthusiasm crushed every time I cared about something, apologizing for being interested in my work. I didn't want to marry someone who saw me as a project. "You're right," I said quietly. "What?" She looked shocked, like she'd expected me to fight. "You're absolutely right. I'm not ready to be the person you need." Her expression shifted, satisfaction mixed with disappointment. "So you'll make the changes?" "No, Lauren. The wedding is off." I got out before she could respond, walked into my cottage that didn't feel like mine, stood in the sterile living room with uncomfortable designer furniture. She followed, and for the first time, she looked uncertain. "Jason, don't be dramatic. We can work through this if you just—" "I don't want to work through this. You told me I'm too childish, that I embarrass you, that everything needs to change. You're right, but not how you think. I'm too childish for marriage to you because I still care about things, get excited about my work, value my friends and family. You're not helping me grow up. You're trying to erase me. That's not fair. Everything I've done has been to help you reach your potential." "According to who? You've sold my possessions, driven away my friends, made me quit activities I loved, created a tracker documenting every way I've disappointed you. That's not love." She tried tears, manipulative crying that had worked before. "Please don't do this. We can fix it, I'll be better. I'm calling off the wedding. Tomorrow I'll contact vendors. You should stay somewhere else tonight." Her face shifted from shock to fury. "You'll regret this. You think you'll find someone better? You're a boring quality control manager who plays with toys. I was the best thing that happened to you. Maybe you're right. Maybe I won't find someone better. But at least I'll find someone who actually likes me." She left with a suitcase, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the art prints. I sat on my uncomfortable couch, pulled out my phone, started making a list of everything I needed to untangle our lives. Then I called my dad. "Hey son, everything okay? It's late." "The wedding's off, Dad. I need help moving furniture tomorrow if you're free." Pause, then I heard him cover the phone, talking quietly to my mom. When he came back, his voice was warm and solid. "We'll be there first thing in the morning. Your old couch still in the garage. Might be time to bring it home." My parents arrived at 7 with my dad's pickup and my mom carrying breakfast casserole. We worked in silence, moving out Lauren's designer furniture, bringing back my comfortable old stuff from their garage. Every piece felt like reclaiming part of myself I'd thought lost. My mom was washing dishes when she found the Jason Improvement Tracker file still open on Lauren's laptop, left behind in her angry exit. "Jason, you need to see this." I walked over and watched her scroll through 18 months of documented failures, her face getting progressively horrified. "This girl was keeping a spreadsheet of everything wrong with you?" "Yeah. Found it a few weeks ago." My mom closed the laptop hard. "You dodged a bullet. Nobody who actually loves you keeps score like this." That afternoon, I canceled wedding vendors, each conversation a small relief. Most deposits were non-refundable, which hurt financially but felt worth it for the freedom. That evening, my college buddy Travis called. "Dude, is it true? Wedding's off." "Yeah. Lauren and I are done." "Man, I hate to say this, but we've all been worried about you for months. You just disappeared. Stopped coming to basketball, stopped being yourself." "I know. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize, just come Thursday. We miss you." Thursday basketball felt like coming home. The squeak of sneakers, trash talk echoing, the pure joy of playing a game I loved with people who didn't need me to be anything other than who I was. Afterward, grabbing beers, Travis asked what happened. I gave them the abbreviated version. "She kept a spreadsheet of your flaws?" Kevin looked genuinely appalled. "That's psychotic." I was settling back into life when Lauren's college friend Melissa reached out through Facebook. "Jason, I know this is weird, but I need to talk to you about Lauren. Can we meet for coffee?" We met at a cafe downtown 2 days later. Melissa looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her cup. I probably should have said something earlier, but after hearing you guys broke up, I couldn't keep this to myself. She pulled out her phone, opened a text thread. Lauren's been seeing someone else. A guy named Preston, orthopedic surgeon she met at an open house 4 months ago. I have screenshots of her group chat with college friends. The screenshots were devastating. Lauren talking about me like a temporary placeholder, calling me her practice run, while she waited for someone better. Training him like a puppy until Preston finally proposes. One message read, "He's like investing in a fixer-upper while you're on the waiting list for the mansion." There were dozens of messages painting the same picture. I was never her partner, just something to keep her occupied until her real future showed up. "There's more," Melissa said quietly. Rebecca, Lauren's older sister, confronted her about how she was treating you. Multiple times. Lauren told her you were malleable enough to mold but boring enough to discard. Rebecca was furious, said Lauren was psychologically abusing you, but Lauren laughed it off. Rebecca knew? I'd met Lauren's older sister maybe 3 times, always briefly. Rebecca's been trying to protect you for months, but Lauren kept her away deliberately. She didn't want Rebecca telling you what was really going on. Melissa scrolled further. Here's the worst part. Preston proposed to Lauren 2 weeks before she gave you that ultimatum at the networking event. She already had a ring from him. The whole thing about you needing to change or the wedding was off, that was just her exit strategy so she could make you the bad guy who wasn't ready for commitment. I sat there feeling punched. The woman I'd planned to marry had been maintaining a secret relationship for months, had accepted another man's proposal while wearing my ring, had manufactured our breakup to make me the villain. Why are you telling me this? Because Rebecca asked me to. She wanted you to know the truth about what her sister did, and she felt terrible that she couldn't warn you directly without Lauren cutting her off completely. Also because it's the right thing to do. What Lauren did was cruel, and you deserved better. I drove home in a daze, the screenshots burning a hole in my phone. That night, I didn't feel angry exactly. I felt relieved. Every doubt I'd had about calling off the wedding evaporated completely. Lauren hadn't loved me. She'd been using me as a placeholder while she waited for her real life to start. The next few weeks were strange, rebuilding my life piece by piece. I reconnected with abandoned friends, started going back to the animal shelter on Saturdays, bought myself a vintage comic I'd been wanting. Every small act of reclaiming my interests felt like rebellion and freedom combined. My cottage slowly transformed back into home. The uncomfortable white furniture got sold, replaced by my worn leather couch and the entertainment center I'd built myself. I hung my movie posters back up, set up my remaining game consoles, brought Cosmo's dog bed back to its spot by the fireplace where it belonged. Work became enjoyable again. Without Lauren's constant criticism echoing, I could actually take pride in what I did. When Gerald Hoffman from that disastrous networking event reached out about consulting on a quality control project, I said yes without worrying whether caring about contamination protocols made me look childish. 4 months after the breakup, on a random Tuesday, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hi Jason, this is Rebecca, Lauren's sister. I know this is probably the last thing you expected, but can we talk? I owe you an apology and explanation." I stared at the message before responding. "Sure. Coffee sometime? How about Thursday? There's a cafe near the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center on Hennepin if that works." I'd never been to that cafe, had no idea there was a wildlife center nearby, but I agreed. Thursday afternoon, I walked in and immediately recognized Rebecca sitting by the window. She looked like Lauren but softer somehow, less polished, more genuine. She stood when she saw me, clearly nervous. "Jason, thank you for meeting me. I wasn't sure you would." We sat down, ordered coffee, and then Rebecca started talking. "I need to apologize for not doing more to stop what my sister did to you. I knew for months that she was being manipulative and controlling, that she was seeing Preston behind your back, that she was treating you like a project instead of a person. I confronted her multiple times, but she shut me out every time I tried to intervene. Melissa told me you'd tried to warn me. I wanted to tell you directly, but Lauren made sure we were never alone together. She knew I disapproved of how she was treating you, so she kept us separated deliberately." Rebecca looked down at her coffee. "After the engagement ended, I got all the details from Melissa, and I've been trying to work up courage to reach out ever since. Why now? Because you deserve to know that someone in my family saw what was happening and thought it was wrong. Because I've been carrying around guilt for months about not finding a way to warn you. And honestly, because I wanted to make sure you were okay after everything she put you through. We talked for 4 hours. Rebecca told me about growing up with Lauren, watching her sister develop this obsession with status and image after their dad left their mom for someone wealthier. How Lauren had done this before with other boyfriends, the pattern of control and manipulation Rebecca had witnessed repeatedly. After our initial coffee meeting, Rebecca and I started texting. Nothing romantic, just two people burned by Lauren's manipulation trying to make sense of what happened. She'd send me funny memes about terrible siblings. I'd share updates about Cosmo's antics. It was easy and comfortable in a way nothing with Lauren had ever been. 2 weeks later, Rebecca asked if I wanted to volunteer with her at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. I work there most Saturdays. We get injured birds, orphaned raccoons, occasional deer. Pretty rewarding if you don't mind getting bit occasionally. I showed up that Saturday not knowing what to expect. The center was a converted barn outside the city, run mostly by volunteers who genuinely cared about helping animals. Rebecca was in her element, gentle and competent with a baby fox hit by a car, explaining the rehabilitation process while checking its healing leg. "You're really good at this. I love it. Been volunteering here 6 years. Lauren always thought it was beneath me, spending weekends with injured animals instead of networking at country clubs." She looked up with a slight smile. Guess we both have experience with her thinking our passions were worthless. Over the next months, Rebecca and I fell into easy friendship. We'd volunteer together Saturdays, grab lunch afterward, text throughout the week. She was a veterinary technician at a clinic in St. Paul, genuinely passionate about animal welfare. What surprised me was how different she was from Lauren despite growing up in the same house. Where Lauren was obsessed with appearances, Rebecca wore comfortable jeans and animal pun t-shirts. Where Lauren had demanded I abandon my interests, Rebecca asked genuine questions about quality control procedures, actually interested. Where Lauren had been ashamed of my family, Rebecca invited herself to my parents' Sunday dinner and spent an hour talking landscaping with my dad. "Your family is wonderful," she said driving home. "Lauren always made them sound embarrassing, but they're just real people who clearly love you." One Saturday, about 8 months after my breakup with Lauren, Rebecca and I were cleaning enclosures when she brought up something clearly on her mind. "Can I ask you something potentially weird?" "Sure," I said, scrubbing a water bowl. "Do you think it's strange that we've become friends? Given everything with Lauren?" I thought about it. "Honestly, no. You're not responsible for your sister's choices. And you're nothing like her. I've been worried that maybe I'm being disloyal to family. But then I remember that she treated you terribly, used you, cheated on you, and I think maybe loyalty to family has limits when that family member is genuinely awful to good people. For what it's worth, I'm glad we're friends. You've helped me remember that not everyone is like Lauren." She smiled, and something in that smile made my chest feel warm in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. That's when I started noticing things I'd been deliberately avoiding. The way Rebecca's face lit up talking about successfully rehabilitating an animal. How she always remembered small details I'd mentioned. The fact that she'd shown up to my company softball game just because I'd casually mentioned it. The way Cosmo loved her immediately, which he'd never done with Lauren. I tried to ignore these feelings because Rebecca was Lauren's sister, and that felt complicated. But the feelings didn't go away. They got stronger every time we hung out, every time she laughed at my terrible jokes, every time she demonstrated that she valued me exactly as I was. 3 months later, Rebecca invited me to a comic convention. "I know you used to collect before Lauren made you stop. There's a vintage dealers section where you might find some issues you lost. Wanna go?" I've actually never been to one. Walking through that convention center with Rebecca, watching her genuine enthusiasm at artist booths and cosplay displays, asking me to explain storylines she didn't know, I realized I was completely falling for her. When she found a vendor selling the exact Fantastic Four issue my grandfather had given me, the one Lauren had sold, and bought it for me as a surprise, I knew I was done pretending this was just friendship. "Rebecca, this must have cost you. Don't worry about it." I saw your face when you recognized it. That's worth way more than the price tag. She handed me the protective sleeve. Plus, I like seeing you excited about things. It's refreshing after watching Lauren try to crush that out of you for years. Can I take you to dinner? Like an actual date dinner? She looked surprised, then her face broke into the warmest smile I'd ever seen. I was wondering if you'd ever ask. I've been waiting for months. Months? Jason, I've had a crush on you since the second time we met, which I felt terrible about because technically you were still Lauren's ex. But you're kind and genuine and you get excited about quality control protocols in a way that's actually endearing, and you're nothing like the shallow people Lauren usually dates. So yes, I would love to go to dinner with you. Our first official date was at a casual Italian place, nothing fancy. We talked for hours about everything, our childhoods, our dreams, our shared love of terrible puns and rescue animals. Rebecca told me about her struggles being the disappointing sister who chose veterinary work over something more prestigious. I told her about feeling like I'd lost myself trying to become what Lauren wanted. You know what I love about you? Rebecca said over dessert. You're exactly who you are. You don't pretend to be more sophisticated or refined. You're just Jason, the guy who gets genuinely excited about statistical process control and rescues three-legged dogs and collects vintage comics. That's not childish. That's authentic. Lauren thought all of those things made me unmarriageable. Lauren's an idiot. Those are the exact things that make you perfect. Dating Rebecca felt like breathing after holding my breath for years. She encouraged my hobbies instead of ridiculing them. She asked to meet my friends and actually enjoyed hanging out with them. She brought Cosmo treats and played with him instead of suggesting I replace him. When I took her to Thursday basketball, she cheered from the sidelines and trash-talked my teammates afterward. When she introduced me to her veterinary clinic coworkers, she bragged about my quality control work like it was impressive. This is Jason. He literally makes sure pharmaceuticals don't kill people. Pretty cool, right? The relationship developed naturally without pressure or ultimatums. We spent weekends volunteering together, weeknights cooking dinner and watching movies on my comfortable couch. She never once tried to change my furniture or criticize my decorating. She actually liked my cottage exactly as it was, lived in and comfortable. This feels like a home, she said one evening, curled up next to me while Cosmo snored by the fireplace. Lauren's place always felt like a showroom. This feels real. About a year into dating Rebecca, she came home from the clinic looking troubled. Lauren and Preston broke up. Preston discovered she'd been lying about basically everything: her age, education credentials, family background. She'd fabricated a graduate degree, claimed to have grown up in a wealthy suburb, even lied about her age by 3 years. He found out and dumped her via text. I felt a strange mix of vindication and pity. That's brutal. She brought it on herself. You can only lie for so long before reality catches up. Rebecca sat at the table. My mom called. Said Lauren's been a mess, moved back home, can't show her face at her real estate firm. Preston told everyone what she'd done. 2 months later, Rebecca got a frantic call from her mom. Lauren had discovered at a family gathering that Rebecca and I were dating. According to her mom, Lauren had completely lost it, screaming about betrayal and storming out. My phone started buzzing an hour later. Messages from an unknown number, clearly Lauren. How could you do this to me? My own sister? You're both disgusting. This is the ultimate betrayal. Rebecca always wanted what I had. I showed the messages to Rebecca, who rolled her eyes. She's been blocked on my phone for months. Let her throw her tantrum. It doesn't change anything about us. But Lauren wasn't done. She started showing up at Rebecca's veterinary clinic, demanding to talk, causing scenes in front of clients. Rebecca finally had to get clinic security involved and threaten a restraining order. She showed up again today, Rebecca told me exhausted. Stood in the parking lot yelling about how I stole her fiancé, how she's going to make sure everyone knows what we did. The harassment escalated with fake social media accounts leaving comments. Homewrecker. Hope you're happy destroying families. We blocked accounts, made profiles private, went radio silent. 3 months after Lauren found out, She called the wildlife center and convinced the receptionist to transfer to Rebecca. She said she's going to show up at my workplace, your workplace, anywhere we are until we face what we've done. That I ruined her life by stealing you. That's when I'd had enough. We need to talk to a lawyer about a restraining order. We consulted an attorney, brought documentation of messages, clinic incidents, threats. The lawyer suggested a formal cease and desist letter first. Sometimes that's enough to make people realize they've crossed a legal line. The letter was sent. For 2 weeks, Lauren went silent. Then she showed up at Rebecca's workplace with a photographer. Security footage showed her trying to force her way into the clinic while he took photos. "I'm documenting my sister's workplace," Lauren shouted at security blocking her. "I have a right to see where the woman who destroyed my life works." The photographer left quickly. Lauren stayed in the parking lot for an hour before police arrived and escorted her away. That incident was enough for the restraining order. The judge granted it immediately given the harassment pattern and escalating behavior. She was ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from both of us, our workplaces, and our residences. We finally had peace. No more harassment, no more surprise appearances, no more attacks. We could breathe again. 6 months after the restraining order, Rebecca surprised me at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center one Saturday morning. I'd gotten there early to help with injured turtles, and she showed up with coffee and nervous excitement I couldn't quite read. "Can we take a walk?" We walked the trails around the center, Cosmo trotting ahead on his 3 legs. The morning was beautiful, early fall with leaves just starting to turn. "I've been thinking," Rebecca started, "about us, about the future, about what we want." "Okay," I said, wondering where this was going. "A year and a half ago, I was terrified to even admit I had feelings for you. You were my sister's ex, and that felt so complicated and wrong. But you're the best thing that ever happened to me, Jason. You make me laugh, you share my values, you love rescue animals and terrible puns, and you get excited about your work in a way that makes me excited about mine." She stopped walking, turned to face me. "I know Lauren tried to change everything about you, tried to make you into someone you're not. And I never want you to feel like you have to be anything other than exactly who you are. But I was wondering." She pulled a small box from her jacket pocket and my brain short-circuited. "Rebecca, what are you, Jason, will you marry me?" She was proposing to me. Rebecca was actually proposing. "I know this is unconventional," she continued, words tumbling out nervously. "But conventional has never been our thing anyway. And I couldn't wait anymore. I love you. I love your enthusiasm and your kindness and the way you take care of 3-legged beagles and explain quality control like it's the most fascinating thing in the world. Will you marry me?" I started laughing, couldn't help it. Laughing because this was perfect, because she was perfect, because a year and a half ago I'd been engaged to someone who made me feel small and now I was being proposed to by someone who made me feel seen. "Yes," I managed. "Absolutely yes." She slipped the ring on my finger, this simple silver band that fit perfectly, and kissed me while Cosmo barked his approval. I was so nervous you'd think this was too fast or too weird given everything with Lauren. This is exactly the right speed. And Lauren has nothing to do with us anymore. This is just you and me. We decided on a small lakefront wedding, nothing extravagant. Just family and close friends at a casual venue overlooking the water where I'd scattered my grandfather's ashes years ago. Rebecca found a simple dress at a local boutique. I wore a nice suit. We hired a food truck for the reception because we both agreed tacos were better than rubber chicken. My hockey teammates were groomsmen, wearing matching jerseys under their suit jackets because Rebecca thought it was perfect. Rebecca's veterinary clinic coworkers served as bridesmaids, each carrying bouquets with small stuffed animals tucked among the flowers. Cosmo was the ring bearer, his 3 legs not slowing him down as he trotted down the aisle with rings attached to his collar. The ceremony was officiated by the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center director who'd watched our relationship develop. No pretentious readings, just honest vows about choosing each other every day, about building a life based on shared values instead of shared bank accounts. "I promise to never make you feel like you need to change," Rebecca said during her vows. "To celebrate your enthusiasms instead of crushing them. You make me better not by demanding I be different, but by showing me what it means to be genuinely myself. My vows were simpler. I promised to support your dreams, to show up for the animals you love, to be your partner instead of your project. You saved me from becoming someone I didn't recognize. You're not just the love of my life, you're the person who helped me find myself again. The reception was exactly what we wanted, casual and fun. The food truck served amazing tacos, there was a bonfire by the lake, and my buddy Kevin brought his guitar for an acoustic jam session that lasted until midnight. People actually enjoyed themselves. That's when Lauren showed up. We were about 2 hours in when I saw the commotion near the entrance. Lauren had somehow found out about the wedding and had shown up uninvited with a photographer. She was wearing what looked like a wedding dress herself, white and elaborate, completely inappropriate. I have a right to be here. Lauren was shouting at the venue security we'd hired specifically because we'd worried this might happen. This is my sister's wedding. You can't keep me out. The security guard was calmly explaining that her name wasn't on the guest list and she needed to leave. Jason, she screamed when she spotted me. You can't do this. You can't just marry my sister like I never existed. Rebecca appeared beside me, took my hand. Should we call the police? Let's give security a minute. They know about the restraining order. We watched as Lauren tried to push past security, her photographer looking increasingly uncomfortable. She was making a scene exactly like she'd wanted, but instead of ruining our wedding, she was just making herself look unhinged. This is insane. I was supposed to marry you. We were supposed to have the perfect wedding. This was supposed to be my day. The guests had stopped talking, everyone watching this spectacle. But Rebecca just looked sad. She really can't let go, can she? Some people never can. Security was on the phone now, clearly calling police. Lauren's desperation escalated. You're making a huge mistake, Jason. Rebecca doesn't really love you, she just wanted to take what was mine. She's always been jealous of me. You were supposed to be with me. We should probably say something, I said to Rebecca. Or we could just let security handle it and get back to our wedding. Rebecca had a point, but I was tired of Lauren's narrative. I walked over to where Lauren was still arguing with security, Rebecca beside me. Lauren, you need to leave. You're not welcome here. How can you say that to me? After everything we had together? Everything we had? You mean the relationship where you kept a spreadsheet of my flaws? Where you sold my possessions without permission? Where you cheated on me with Preston while planning our wedding? That everything? Her face went red. I made mistakes, but this is worse. You're marrying my sister. I'm marrying someone who actually loves me. Someone who doesn't see me as a project to fix or a placeholder until someone better comes along. You don't get to be upset about losing something you never valued. I valued you. No, you valued what you thought you could turn me into. There's a difference. Police sirens were audible. The photographer had already left. Lauren looked around at all the guests watching her, seemed to finally realize how this looked. You're all going to see. You're going to see that this doesn't last. That Rebecca gets bored of you just like I did. That you're too boring, too childish, too ordinary for anyone to really love long term. I won't worry about that, I said simply. Because she won't. She actually likes ordinary. She likes boring quality control managers who rescue three-legged dogs and get excited about statistical analysis. And I like women who value authenticity over image. We're good. The police arrived, checked the restraining order details. Lauren was escorted off the property, still shouting about injustice, her white dress trailing in the dirt. We stood there for a moment after she left, guests buzzing with shocked conversation. Then Rebecca turned to face everyone. Well, that was awkward. But hey, more tacos for the rest of us. The tension broke. People laughed, conversations resumed, the party got back on track. 6 months later, Rebecca and I were settling into married life beautifully. We'd bought a small house with enough land to start an animal sanctuary, something we'd been dreaming about. We had 3 rescue dogs now, 2 cats, a rabbit with 1 ear, and a chicken Rebecca had saved from a hoarding situation. According to the rumor mill, Lauren was cycling through relationships with increasingly wealthy men, each one ending when they discovered her pattern of lies and manipulation. She'd moved to a different city, trying to reinvent herself somewhere people didn't know her history. I didn't feel vindicated by her struggles. I just felt grateful I'd escaped. One Sunday, Rebecca and I were building a new enclosure for the sanctuary when she brought up something on her mind. Do you ever think about what your life would be like if you'd actually married Lauren? Sometimes. Usually in a, thank God I dodged that bullet kind of way. I think about it too. Not because I wish it had happened, but because I'm so grateful it didn't. If you'd married her, you'd probably be miserable, and I never would have gotten the chance to fall in love with you. We worked in comfortable silence before Rebecca spoke again. You know what Lauren was wrong about? Specifically about you being too childish for marriage. Turns out that your so-called childish qualities, your enthusiasm, your passion, your ability to find joy in simple stuff, those are exactly what make you perfect for marriage. At least marriage to the right person. And you're the right person. Definitely. Though I reserve the right to mock your puns mercilessly. That evening, we sat on our porch watching the sunset, surrounded by rescue animals and the life we'd built together. A life based on genuine connection instead of image management. On shared values instead of shared pretensions. Lauren had been right about one thing. I was too childish for marriage to her. But that childishness, that enthusiasm, that refusal to abandon the things and people I loved, that's exactly what made marriage to Rebecca work. Because Rebecca understood that passion and authenticity aren't signs of immaturity. They're signs of someone who knows who they are and isn't afraid to be that person. Lauren taught me what I didn't want. Rebecca showed me what I deserved. And that made all the difference.